Get Pucked. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Get Pucked, the ABC episode 2, anything but the Canadiens. Here with you today, as usual, Matt, Dave, Vito. I'm going to bring you some content about things in sports, predominantly hockey, but could be any sports, anything but Canadiens related. To start with, gentlemen, there's been obviously a player in the NHL that just did a feat, or did he? I want to give you a definition before I ask the question, and you tell me what you think about it. Wikipedia, the source of all information and all things true, has the following to say about 50 goals in 50 games. The phrase 50 goals in 50 games refers to the act of scoring 50 goals within the first 50 games of an NHL season. Scoring 50 goals in 50 or fewer games in the NHL is a rare achievement. The NHL defines 50 goals in 50 games to mean the player that scores 50 goals in their team's first 50 games of the season, not the player's first 50, which could be all kinds of other reasons. Presently, Auston Matthews is listed on the same Wikipedia page under mid-season 50-goal scores. Now, obviously, Twitter's having a fun time about this. Is he a 50-50? Is he not? I ask you first, Dave, is Auston Matthews a member of the elite 50-50 club?
Yes, without a question. It's so stupid. It's such a silly thing. Okay, first off, does the NHL actually define this? Like, who in the NHL sat down and said, this is the definition of 50 and 50? 50 and 50 is a stat. It's a random stat. It's not a you know what I mean? Like I get that people want to make it as an official feat and stuff like that. It's not. Has somebody scored 50 goals in his last 50 games? And
no, it's in his first 50 games. It started with Rocket Richard, and then there's other players that have achieved that. And in fact, Gretzky did it 3 times. Lemieux did it once. Brett Hall did it twice. Mike Bossy did it once.
There's only 5 players.
That's something that's not tangible. Nobody's like, that's just somebody decided it that way. That's how we're gonna do it, and that's how that people have counted it, because probably it's never happened before that someone just randomly hits 51 goals in 50 games. It's not a real thing. It's not a real officially sanctioned NHL thing. It's a thing that has happened. So the question to me should be, has Auston Matthews scored 50 goals in his last 50 games? And he has. He scored 51. So therefore he hits it. What does it matter? Should we break everybody's heart and say, man, Keith Yandel, his Ironman streak didn't start at the start of a season. It started randomly in the middle. So sorry. Throw it out the record books. Has to start at the first game of the season for some odd reason. What's the point? Why? What makes it? Arguably, arguably, it's more impressive to score goals at this stage of the season, where teams are ready. They're ready for you. They're scouting. They've scouted you all season. They're playing for something. It's not the beginning of the season where nobody knows who's good and what's not good. Arguably, it's more impressive now to score these goals. So of course it counts.
Well,
of course.
I don't know about that, because the idea of starting hot and coming out of the gate hot and remaining hot for the entire season versus having a 17-game buffer to get your shit together like Matthews had before he achieved this 51 goals in 50 games. By the way, I want to say that's a crazy achievement. It's fantastic. I'm not taking anything away from what he did, but at the end of the day, it's... No, I'm not.
I think you're trying to.
I am not trying to do that. At the end of the day, he's got 58 goals in 67 games. Yes, he's got 51 in his last 50, but he didn't do it from the start of the season. In fact, he had his wrist education, because it does matter. Part of a streak, part of the thing that's impressive is starting off hot and maintaining that streak.
So just stop right there. Stop. Cole Caulfield, not impressive to you.
It's impressive, but impressive in the last X games, not since the start of the season.
Okay, but like, no one's saying he scored 50 goals at the start of the season. Everyone is just saying he scored 50 goals in 50 games.
Yes,
so,
they're not saying that, though. That's not what they're saying.
Yeah. Who's claiming that he scored them at the beginning of the season?
Okay, no, they're not saying he scored at the beginning of the season. They're saying that he's a 50-goal and 50-game player, when historically the only people that we ever talk about that did that are the 5 that Vito mentioned, because they did it as of game 1. There's a whole list of people, and it's on the same page here, unofficial 50-50 scorers, which are guys that started later than their teams first, but did it in their first 50 games. Still don't count. Yeri Curry doesn't count. McGillney doesn't count. Like, these guys are there, but they're not part of the club.
It doesn't count for that Wikipedia page. That's what it is.
No, there's several pages. There's several pages that even talk about it.
I think most people agree with that. Yeah.
I mean, I don't know, man. To me, it's stupid. And if that's how people want to to quantify it, fine, but it's wrong. It's absolutely wrong. It's not right whatsoever. You said that you said that thing about impressive. Cole Caulfield's on impressive feet. Who cares if he did at the beginning of the season or in the second half of the season? It doesn't matter. It's just semantics. It's really just a random. What happens if he would have missed the first 30 games of the season, Auston Matthews, and then done this feat?
He becomes exactly where he is today. He is a mid-season 50-50 player, not part of the 50-50 club. Words matter. Context matters.
But why does it matter? Why does it matter?
Why does it matter? The same manner as Gretzky, as Hull, as Mario, and as Bossy. These guys did it in a particular way.
So you'd rather see somebody score 50 goals in the first 35 games and then never score again for the rest of his career, but he's still, man, he's part of that 50-50 club. Way better.
I don't know if I'd rather see it, but yes, as far as I'm concerned, if a person
but to you,
does
that's a
50,
better feat than doing it the other way.
I don't know if the word is better, but it's more how to say it. It's more
listen,
I don't even know the right way to say it. It's just it's part of how you have to do it. It's just how it's done.
At the end of the day, these feats, these achievements, these records were made. And when they were made, they became goals and achievements for other players to try to strive for, beat, or whatever the case may be. That's the setting. That's what they came out with. It started in 1945-46.
The hockey world, man.
It started in 1945-46 with Rocket Richard. He was the first one to do it. And ever since then, it became a thing.
Okay.
Now because of that, these things are there. They're established. People have documented it. Media has documented it. They have recorded this as being an amazing achievement. So it exists with these rules or these descriptions of these feats or these achievements. So the actual description of 50 and 50 is what Matt explained before. And Auston Matthews, if you're basing yourself on what exists today as a feat, did not hit it. He didn't do it. But that doesn't take anything away from what he did. What he did is fucking amazing. I'm not taking anything away from. If there's a player that to start next season and has the best chances of getting 50 and 50 in the first 50 NHL games, it's Auston Matthews.
If he puts up 50 goals in 50 games last year, now he's scored 100 goals in 100 games, which is just as impressive. Like, the thing is, the world's adaptable, right? You just said it. The hockey world came out and agreed that 50 has to be done at the beginning mark of the 50 season. But now we're seeing on Twitter, all of a sudden, all of these people, we're not having this debate out of nowhere. All these people are thinking it's that. So
but they're changing the narrative. The people that you're talking about, the people that you're talking about doing that are specific Leafs fans.
No, they're not. No, false. That's false, man. That's maybe who you're tailored to on your Twitter feed is you're seeing Habs fans.
Well,
and
no,
not
necessarily.
Everybody's talking about.
I want to read up a bunch of articles.
Yeah, language matters. Just quickly, it's important to say that the journalists and people that are out there that are saying this and commenting on it and writing 50 and 50, language matters. They are the ones that I actually follow. Specifically, are saying Auston Matthews has scored 50 goals in his last 50 games.
Of course.
Because that's what he did. But they are not throwing comparables to Gretzky and Bossy and Richard and Hull because he did not do it in the same time frame. Listen, it might be funny. It's funny to debate. I'm just saying, I don't know if you hear the same amount of people clamoring if Auston Matthews played for another team. I just don't know if that's the case.
Yeah, I think so, man. Of course, there's going to be a little bit more spotlight because it's Toronto and it's the Leafs for sure. 100%. I'm not going to ever debate you on that. But I think that if Leon Draisaitl had scored 50 goals in his last 50 games, people would be talking about it as an impressive feat for sure. 100%.
But it is impressive. It is impressive.
And it should be part of the 50-50 club. It's silly that let's say nobody does it for the next 20 years. That we're just going to erase this. When you ask, hey, has anyone scored 50 goals in 50 games? You're going to make, nope, nobody. It's silly. You're obviously going to have to refer back to Auston Matthews.
Let me ask you this. Let me ask you a fun fact, okay? If I were to ask you today, well, we obviously mentioned a bunch of times, but if I said, who are the members of the 50-50 club? Mm-hmm. Would you have told me Bossy, Richard, Gretzky, and Hull?
I'm not going to lie to you. I have no idea. I don't care. I wouldn't have cared. I wouldn't have.
Okay.
It doesn't matter to me. It's not
most people. but most people, I believe, would have given me those guys' names. Now, according to you, they should also be telling me Esposito, Charlie Simmer, Yari Curry, Bernie Nichols, Solani, because these guys had achieved scoring an X amount of goals in a period of X amount of games, just not at the start of the season. But they don't do that.
To me,
Auston Matthews shouldn't be in that conversation either.
I think it should, man. I think that it's arguably more impressive. Like, what other record in the NHL is tailored to the day one of the NHL season? It doesn't make any sense. It's just this one specific record that we're going to say, no, day one, that's it. Ironman streak doesn't matter. You can start whenever. Anything else?
It's funny, but yes, this might be the only one.
Okay, so then you realize that maybe we should revise it and realize.
Okay, so hold on a second. If I was an NHL player today and I came out of the gate and got 82 points in a season, so 82 points in 82 games, all right, but I got it every single game. I got a point a game. I was effective every game. I put something. Or is that as impressive or more impressive than, say, I got a cluster of 60 points in I don't know, in a 40, 50 game span and then I got the remaining points in the first whatever. And I was more of a streakier player.
It'd be more impressive to get a point a game for 82 straight games.
Yeah.
Yes.
No, so
I think that was pretty easy.
But if you score 50 goals in your first 50 games and then never again, and you get 50 goals in 82 games, you're still a member of the 50-50 club, but you still got it in the cluster.
How many players are scoring 50 goals in the season to begin with?
What I mean is that argument you just made, it doesn't make any sense, because you could have that argument for, let's say, Auston Matthews has scored 50 goals in his first 50 games and then never scored again.
Well, he would have made the 50 and 50 club.
But how is that more? It's you're arguing that the 82 consistency is.
I'm arguing the point of starting hot and remaining hot.
But it's not remaining hot. You have to just remain hot for 50 games. It doesn't matter after that.
Yes,
technically.
You know what? We didn't make the rules. God damn it! This is how it's supposed to be.
It's just a random thing that's people.
No, it's actually a record that Wayne Gretzky holds. Because he's done it in the fewest games, and he's done it 3 times. It's actually a stat in his record.
It's not a record, but it's not a record. It's not a
goals is a thing that we decided. Wow, that's a nice number to score.
Well, it is. It is a record because. Here, it is a record because here, look, Sidney Crosby just achieved a milestone as well. That only Wayne Gretzky's above him. Hold on a second. No, but wait. I'm going to use Sidney Crosby as an example because it was the most recent. He's the 7th fastest player to hit 1,400 points. And then there's the other one where he's had 17 consecutive seasons of being a point per game player. The only person above him is Wayne Gretzky. That means he went every year for 17 years where he was over a point a game. These things exist. So one of them is 50 goals in the first 50 games of a regular season.
But how come no one says 50 goals in the first 50 games? It's 50 and 50. There's no 50 in first 50.
Because it's that exclusive of a club. When you say 50 and 50, you should just know who the 50 and 50s are.
Ridiculous. It's ridiculous.
Okay. All right. Ridiculous or not, I think we made a very clear point about where you stand on this.
We don't agree, but I do want to say this for the Leafs fans that will tune in, for any hockey fan really. Guys, Auston Matthews is the first player to score 51 goals in their last 50 games since Mario Lemieux did it in the late 90s. We're not taking anything away from what Auston Matthews is doing and what he's done. It's incredible. I'm actually very happy to see this for the game of hockey because it's been something we haven't seen. Not even Ovechkin has done this. Okay, so let's not take that away from. But if you're gonna follow within the rules in that box that we're talking about,
take it away from
you can achieve it.
But. All right. Listen, I like it. I have another thing I want to get to because not so much hockey. I just thought this was a weird thing, and a lot of people are talking about it. Nick Suzuki at the game against the Leafs took a puck, threw it over the glass to a fan. Unfortunately, accidentally, the kid missed it and it hit him in the lip. The kid has a busted lip. He's crying. Suzuki hears about it. He comes back, takes a picture with them. It's very beautiful. Gives him a stick, signs and everything. Moses on his way. The arena staff at Scotiabank comes up to the kid and the father of the kid and says, you can't stay in here anymore. And he's got tickets right up against the glass in one of the most expensive arenas in all of hockey, and says, you have to leave. You have to actually leave the game. The stick is considered a weapon. You can't keep it here. You can't stay in your seat. The kid, all 10 years old of him, has the stick. It could be a weapon, do mass damage, mass casualties with this stick. Do you think they overreacted? Do you think that that's a policy that should really be enforced? Could they not have handled it a different way? Say, hey, give us the stick and we'll give you a ticket, like a receipt, and you can come pick it up after. Did they have to escort the kid? Did they do it because they weren't Leaf fans? What are your take on that, Vito?
I mean, we're talking about a kid that's like 4'4". Like, what's he gonna do as a weapon with a stick? Let him stay. They paid good money. Assumingly, they paid good money for tickets to get front row at the Glass. Yes, the kid had a very memorable moment, but I mean, he took that picture with Suzuki, and I don't know if he was crying because he had a busted lip or if he was crying because of the moment that was happening for him. But at the end of the day, that's what it's all about. You have literally players coming and interact with fans, doesn't matter the age, and in this particular case, it's a kid who got a stick, a picture, and a puck, and it's probably one of the best moments of his life that's ruined at the fact that he's the one probably feels responsible for getting kicked out of the game, and probably a father-son moment. Just leave him there. What's the harm? Okay, I get rules are rules. It goes back to rules are rules, right? But I mean, it's a kid.
Yeah. Look, first off, the kid was a fan of what team?
Montreal Canadiens.
The Habs.
And it happened in what a game against who? Between which
Toronto.
team? Okay, and the Canadiens. I thought this was an anything but Canadiens episode, but maybe this rule doesn't violate the
It
rule.
doesn't violate. I'm not talking about the team. I'm talking about a fan.
Look, guys,
Doesn't violate.
realistically, it's probably an zealous one security guard who, you know, is a stickler for rules and who kicked them out. I don't think it's indicative of anything. You know, elsewhere in the NHL, we've heard stories of, they'll keep it for you on the side and you go pick it up at the boutique or anything like that. It's obviously just one guy who maybe it was his first day, maybe it was his first week, maybe he was already in trouble for bending the rules another way. There's a million reasons why this could have happened. It was we could all agree it was a stupid decision. It was a ridiculous thing. That guy, that, you know, security guard or whoever kicked him out. I mean,
Tell him to go work at a bank.
Should it what?
Tell him to go work at a bank then.
Should use a bit more common sense and you know, common decency. But at the end of the day, I don't think it's any more indicative than anything. I think it's just one or two people who made the wrong decision and probably shouldn't be working, at least in that position, or making those decisions going forward until they're better trained. Next.
Fair say. Fully in agreement.
Dave, guys, I feel like being a bit of a dick right now.
Nice. You are. Go.
All right.
That's my question.
Let's quickly, I'm just going to go back a second. If a player, all right, has 30 straight goals in the final 30 games of the season and the season's done, but then starts next season with another 20 goals, it's 50 goals in his last 50 games.
That's interesting. That's an interesting case. You know, to me, it would have to. It's better if it's done in a season, but he still scored 50 goals in 50 games.
Oh my God!
Come on, Dave!
Get out of here!
Come on!
No. Right. So what? Playoffs don't
guys,
count?
I guarantee you, if
playoffs don't count,
stop. I guarantee you, if Cole Caulfield scores 20 goals in his first 20 games next year, everyone's not just saying, "Hey, Cole Caulfield has 20 goals." They're going to mention last year's stats as well. Hey, look,
then they're dumb. That is a ridiculous take.
You know what?
Ridiculous.
Now we're doing that.
It's interseason. You can't span over time. That makes no sense.
We were moving on.
That's ridiculous. It's one thing I will say. I respectfully disagree with Dave's take about the 50 and 50 presently, but I understand it. Do not be telling me somebody does 30 at the end of a season and then kicks off the next season and it keeps going. Look, no way.
I'm willing to say that if it's in this imaginary club that the hockey world has created, fine. You want to kick them out of the club because they did it in 2 seasons? I could understand that 100%. It doesn't make it any less impressive. And I think that if Cole Caulfield does, I'm just saying that I think there's a little bit of a bias here because it's the Leafs. Because I think that if Cole Caulfield ends up scoring those goals next year, everyone's going to be talking about, oh man, since last year, this is how many goals he scored in this many games.
Well, no, they're going to change it. They're going to change the wording.
They're going to say it, but it won't matter. And I don't care if anybody listening agrees with me or doesn't agree with me and thinks I'm making it up. I have sent texts to friends that have said, "Oh, if it's a Leaf, because it's a Leaf, it doesn't matter to me." The club is so exclusive. You got to put aside your bias and your favoritism to your team. It doesn't matter. You have to do it in a certain manner. That's how it's done. Now, that doesn't take away, like Dave's saying, it doesn't take away from the impressiveness. You do 30 at the end of one season, you pick off on the next season, you start, you get another 20. You will be somebody in your last 50 regular season games got 50 goals. It is a very, very, very impressive stat. You should put a feather in your cap. no doubt.
Well,
But
no,
you
okay,
are
guys,
not
but
part of that club.
the scenario that I just brought up, I'm sorry, I don't agree. If you scored 30 goals at the final 30 games of the season, and then you had a whole summer break to train, relax, go on vacation, come back and get 20 goals in your first 20 games, they're not going to be talking about, hey, he's got 50 goals in his last 50 games with
I
a
think they
summer break.
will.
No,
They
what they're
will
going to be talking
say
about,
it.
what they're
They'll
going to be
say
talking
it.
about, what they're going to be talking about is if he got 20 goals to start the season in the first 20 games, they're going to be saying, oh, this guy's on pace for being 50 and 50. The real 50
They'll
and
talk
50.
about 50.
No,
I'm
they're
telling
for
you,
sure they're going to talk about it, but it's not
Not
it's
with a
not
summer break in between.
it's ridiculous. Anyways, okay, enough about the goals. I want to just ask one
Make it
last
quick.
question because I was curious what you would think about it. In the top 4 major sports in North America, that would be football, baseball, hockey, and basketball. In your opinion, since we're talking about individual achievements and feats, what is the most difficult individual achievement for a player to do across the 4 sports? Starting with you, Vito.
50 and 50.
Okay.
The real
Okay.
50 and 50.
The real 50
no,
and 50 is the hardest thing to do? Okay.
You know what? I think one of the hardest thing is probably at the goalie position in the NHL is maintaining throughout the entire season above 935 save percentage. There's a reason why you have somebody like Carey Price. When he did do it in 2015, he got all the awards that he got. Shesterkin started this season this year, was on fire, was above 940. And we're like, holy crap, this might be the best regular season stat the goalie has ever had in the NHL. And he's even come down albeit it's in the lower 930s, which is fantastic. But it's really difficult to be above 935, and that's been proven consistently throughout an 82 game schedule. So for me,
over a
I'm gonna stick
930
to stick to hockey, but I would say that's probably the challenging thing.
All right, Dave.
All right, Matt, you go first. I want to hear your answer first because off air we talked. We might have had the same one. So I just want to hear.
Okay. All right. Well, to me, there's literally zero doubt in my mind. The hardest achievement in the 4 major sports in North America is for a pitcher to throw a perfect game.
Oof. I would disagree. There's so many perfect games these days, man.
It's still got to be you. I don't know. Is there? I don't think there's been 40 of them done ever. I think it's still in the 20s, right? Ever since the start of baseball. To me, that is over the 9 innings, the whole game, no one on base, one guy who today does full games anymore, really. To me, that's got to be the hardest single individual achievement. And now I'm very curious, Dave, because what is it?
It's curious. That's actually a very good one. There's actually only been 23 perfect games.
There you go. I mean, to me, it's so rare.
Because there's been a lot of no-hitters recently.
No-hitters is a really hard thing to do, too. But, I mean, the perfect game is like, I mean.
Because we had 3 perfect games in 1 year recently.
Yes.
So
yes.
that was crazy.
A couple of years back, that happened.
And I think if you go back to I'm looking here. If you go back to the 2000s, there's been 7 or something since the 2000s. So there's been a lot. But you're right. That's actually a really good one. That wasn't mine. I was thinking more in terms of not a record, but I think the Joe DiMaggio hit streak, 56 games, is absolutely ridiculous. To be on, they play every single day, and to be able to hit every single day when you have pitchers walking you have pitchers, you could just never see a strike, and you still make 56 straight appearances. Well, hits, not even appearances on base. Is just
proper connections.
They do it in the first 56 games.
Sorry.
Did he do it in the first 56 games?
Probably not. So I guess screw Joe DiMaggio. Get him out of here. Get him out of the record books. Not impressive. That to me was the first thing that came to mind. 100 points in basketball, right? Only been done once.
Yeah, Wilt did it.
I don't think the game really lends to somebody scoring 100 points anymore at one individual. And that's the problem with these records, is that a lot of them, nothing really lends to it anymore.
Did Kobe? I think Kobe was the closest against the Raptors, right?
Yeah,
when he did 80 something or whatever. Yeah.
But yeah, other than that,
that's a good one. The on base, the Joe DiMaggio one. I really thought you were going to say perfect game too. So that's a really good one.
No, also the unassisted triple play in baseball was something that I personally love to see.
That's a good one. That's an interesting. I don't know. I don't think they keep track of that one.
No,
that's a really good one too. Yeah,
that's a crazy thing. But
baseball's got a lot of good ones.
Yeah,
but that's true.
Football, I don't know if you guys are football fans. And it's weird that we haven't talked about this ever. In our personal lives, but I mean, it just seems like I don't know. There's so many things in football that happen constantly. Like, right, there's a record for everything in football. Like, the most touchdowns thrown on a Monday by a quarterback who was 23 years old.
Well,
So
yeah, but there's a pantheon of ones that are like important. So like total touchdown passes at the end of the season, I thought was a really big one. That I think just got broken. That was obviously a really big deal.
But the most unbreakable record of all time, or streak, if you want to call it, of all time, still goes back to hockey. Nobody's ever going to be able to come out and say Glenn Hall, who had 502 consecutive starts and goal.
Oh yeah, that's the game again.
There's no way that's impossible.
Yeah, he played in an era where, like, he was just they just went and played. They didn't.
The only one.
It didn't matter. You could smoke during the game. You could drink a beer during the game.
The good old days.
Yeah, no, you're right. But they're also playing with basically 2 cows on their knees and 2x4 for a hockey stick and 62-pound skates and barely any equipment.
Very true.
And no face mask.
That's
very true. Listen, I'd be very curious. Everybody listening, if you could, if you have something, if you agree or disagree with one of our takes about the hardest individual achievement, we'd be super thrilled to read it in the comments and hear what you guys have to think about that as well. What do you think is the hardest individual player achievement in the major top 4 sports of North America? That would be fantastic. We'd like to go through those, and we'll try to get back to you for each comment that we get. Other than that, gentlemen, thus concludes episode 2 of the ABC. Granted, we touched a little bit on Canadiens, but let's just not go there. Thank you, everybody, so much for listening. Again, we have a great amount of pleasure doing these types of things. We definitely want to mention the giveaway. You've probably seen it on the Twitter. Check it out again. Here it is one more time for those viewing us here on YouTube or Facebook. All you really have to do is subscribe to the YouTube channel. That's like the key thing that gets you an entry. The more you share it, the more you send it out there, increases your odds. It's a wonderful thing if you can do it. Again, you get to pick the number, you get to pick the name that goes on the back. It is very customizable. You're not locked into anybody. We're not giving away like a whatever jersey of somebody that you might not be so interested in. You get to pick. So definitely check that out too. Otherwise, subscribe, the drill by now. We really do appreciate it, everybody. And yes, so for Vito, Dave, I'm Matt. This was Get Pucked.